Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight Family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alves, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
This is Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenik. And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American Top Picks.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jacob and I are going to walk through UFC Vegas 49. I can't decide if I ever want to say Islam versus Green or Makhachev versus Green. I feel like I got to go with
I think most people say Islam.
And it's officially Makhachev versus Green, but that's just too much to write, too much to say. We're going to walk through the entire UFC Vegas 49 fight card. We're going to give you our picks, our bets, and our fantasy plays. If you want $50 free, we're doing a giveaway. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do, and we send you $50. It's that simple. It's that easy. And the stream is brought to you by BETU Play to Earn. That's BETU Play to Earn, and they are the world's first online sports and esports betting game. Check it out now at betuearn.com. And we have an interesting fight night. It's another one where it's not a big name card, but it's going to end up being pretty fun. Last week was a good fight card, even though, nothing really on the line, nothing really mattered, but lots of fun fights. And we've got more of the same. First up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Victor Altamirano versus Carlos Hernandez. Victor Altamirano is 10-1 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a really fun Contender Series win. Carlos Hernandez, 7-1 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, also coming off a Contender Series win. Victor Altamirano is more of a traditional martial artist, but he has a solid MMA game. He's fast, he's powerful on his feet, but he's also pretty patient and calculated when he needs to be. His takedown defense isn't great, but he does have sweeps from the bottom, and he's got a good enough get-up game that you're not just going to take him down and ride him out for 15 minutes. Carlos Hernandez is a grappler who has okay striking. Striking-wise, he's got solid accuracy. He does have some deceiving power in there. He isn't the most technically sound guy, but he has a nice jab with a straight right that follows right behind it. His issue is he keeps his chin up, and he's almost asking to be cracked in the face. He's another one of these guys that has slick BJJ, but not much to offer in the wrestling department. So he kind of relies on his opponents to make sure that he can get to the ground and do what he actually wants to do. He will take shots, but they're usually stuffed and then he ends up working up to the upper body. So he'll dive at some legs, but he's not usually finishing those. You'll even see him throw up a Hail Mary submission. You go on YouTube, check out some of his fights. He's just taking shots, coming up to the body, and then just jumping to a flying triangle. The reality is, though, he is a well-rounded guy, but he just can't dictate where the fight goes. It's an interesting fight. We got 2 young prospects. They're both coming off Contender Series wins. And you know how I love railing people who fade Contender Series people. So I said this in the quick picks. What are you going to do? All you Contender Series faders, what are you going to do here? And somebody said, just bet the draw. And that's pretty funny. Anyway, I like Victor here. So Victor's my pick. I think he's the better striker, and even though Carlos may be the better grappler, he doesn't really have the wrestling to fully implement that game plan. So Victor can keep it on his feet if he wants to, and we just saw Victor win in the Contender Series fight. He was taken down 5 times in that fight, and he still pulled off the win. He has his own takedowns if he needs them. He's got solid hands. I think he can avoid a Hail Mary submission, so I'm going Victor Altamirano. What are you doing, Jake?
Yeah, I think that this is one of those fights where I think the odds are exactly correct. I think the DraftKings is exactly correct. I think these guys are almost mirror images of each other in the striking, in the grappling, in the wrestling. Neither one of them are great strikers. I think they're both more comfortable on the ground. I would disagree. I think Carlos is probably the better wrestler, but I'll tell you exactly how this fight's going to go. This was my first bet of the night. Both these guys are tough, but I think both these guys, as you mentioned, kind of take chances at times. I put a does not go to distance bet on this fight. 1 unit. I'm sorry. I was gonna play some distance. I did a 1U under 2.5. Sorry, and that's plus 150 right now, under 2.5. I think these guys get after it, and this is how the fight's gonna go. Victor, he loves his guillotine. I think Carlos wants to get this fight to the ground early. I think he takes a shot. I think Victor jumps guillotine. If he doesn't get it, I think he's on his back. I think he catches Carlos with an armbar or a triangle. And here's what set me the difference in this fight, because I think they're both even. Victor learned how to play the cello at like an older age.
I saw that.
He just like picked up, and just there's two people that play the cello when they're older. It's complete nerds. Angelo, I think you said you play the cello, and complete psychopaths. There is complete psychopaths that just randomly pick up the cello and start playing. I think Victor has that ick factor. I think he's just weird enough to throw up something wild from the bottom, and I think he gets it done. But I think he can get out wrestled in this fight. But I'm going Victor as well.
I saw that whole cello interview while doing research, obviously. And it was such a weird interview because he talked about playing the cello. And then he was like, and sometimes I forget. Like, I'll watch amazing cello people. And I'll forget I'm amazing at something else. I'm amazing at fighting. It's like, what? He's talking about the cello? What's happening right now?
He's a little different, man. And when he's in there, you can kind of that too. He kind of has his hands down at times, relies on his head movement. He's a little bit different. I think that gives him the X factor in this fight.
So we're both on Victor. I do completely disagree with you, though. I think this is a straight-up decision. I don't think there's a stoppage here. I think both these guys, I don't think there's enough power between the two of them. I don't think Victor's, Carlos.
I think it'll be a finish on the ground either way. I think they're very evenly matched, but I think one of them finds an opportunity on the ground. I don't think they're going to knock each other out.
Anything could happen in a scramble for sure, but I don't see it that way, but we'll see what happens. DraftKings, you nailed it. Pick your side, right? If you think Victor's going to win, $8,000 is not a bad price because, well, you think there's a stoppage. I think it's just going to be a war and they'll go at it. I also like Victor at plus money. I don't know if I'm going to bite the bullet and place that bet because the reality is they are pretty young in their careers. This is their first real fight in the UFC. And, even though Victor has 11 fights, we haven't really seen him tested. What?
I'm going to say something a little controversial. This is the poor man's Brandon Moreno, Davison Figueiredo. That's how I see this. Just because they're so evenly matched. Obviously, they're not as good as those two people, but I mean, if these guys fought each other 10 times, it'd be 5-5.
Yeah, okay. It's a random comparison that adds nothing. But thanks for the insight there.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah, so I think pick your side on DraftKings if you want one of these guys. We've got 24 fighters to pick from. I think there's some stoppages this week. What do you think of Monkey Knife Fight? 93 is such a high line. I think even if this goes to a decision, he's not going to get to 93. That's crazy.
I see this as a lot of grappling. I think both these guys might be able to get 3 or 4 takedowns on their own right, and it's just a lot of scrambling, a lot of jiu-jitsu. So I think it's a less play because I see a stoppage too, so.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the stoppage, but I do think it's probably a less as well in Monkey Knife Fight. If you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, it's daily fantasy. These are the strike lines. This is how many strikes each one of these guys is expected to land. If you bet the more and they land more, you get paid. You bet the less, they land less, you get paid. It's that simple. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They'll match your deposit. Take the free money, play with the free money. Speaking of free money, you want $50 free. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of the 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know. I'll send you 50 free bucks. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Ramiz Brahimaj taking on Micheal Gillmore. Ramiz Brahimaj, he's 9-4 overall. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He's alternating wins and losses, and he is taking this on short notice. Micheal Gillmore, 6-4 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off 2 losses in a row. And I mentioned Ramiz is taking this on short notice. He's coming off that disappointing loss to Court McGee. And my concern here before I dig in is Ramiz already doesn't have great cardio. You add some short notice in the mix. I can't imagine that situation gets any better. But Ramiz Brahimaj is a fantastic grappler, but he doesn't use it. We have broken this guy down 5 times, and every single time it's the same. He's a very good grappler. He doesn't use the grappling. We mentioned that you might remember him from when he decided to stand with Max Griffin and his ear was almost removed from his head. And what was frustrating...
I think technically it kind of was.
I mean, it wasn't on the floor. It wasn't on the floor, but it certainly wasn't attached. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was not. It was like if the Velcro was like super loose and it just that last little hook was keeping it there. But what's frustrating about that fight and every other Ramiz Brahimaj fight lately is he just didn't grapple. He just decided to strike. He has enough success striking that he'll continue to do it, but not enough that he'll actually win a fight doing it. So he's very, very frustrating to watch. And Court McGee was an interesting one too, because Court actually initiated the grappling. Court wasn't afraid of the ground, took Ramiz down, and Ramiz just sort of accepted those takedowns, had a few decent scrambles, but didn't do much with it. And being a very good grappler on top in MMA is very different than off your back in MMA. So he was ridden out, beaten up, and wasn't a really good look. And I imagine he's taking this on short notice to make up for that. He needed to push the pace in that fight. He didn't push the pace in that fight. When he does strike, I mentioned he has some success, and he does have actual power in his hands. But again, he's just not successful enough to win a striking match. Micheal Gillmore is a good striker. He's got solid power, very good timing. He has great leg kicks, and he uses them well to keep grapplers at bay. He's coming off that loss to Andre Petrosyan, where he had some success striking, but he had just no answer for the wrestling or the grappling. The stats will show that he defended 5 takedowns, I believe it was, or he at least defended a few of those takedowns. But if you watch the fight and you look a little closer, the takedowns that he defended were just sloppy takedowns that were not set up. So it's not like he was just stuffing Andre Petrosyan's takedowns left. Andre was just taking a bad shot, and then he stuffed him. Any shot that Andre actually set up, he got. And breaking down Ramiz, I mentioned, it's always the same. He's a very talented grappler, but he doesn't use it. Then we debate, is he going to use it? I think he might use it. And then we make our pick, and then he just goes out there and does whatever the hell he's going to do anyway. And unfortunately, I'm going to fall into that trap one more time. This is the last time I fall into that trap, because Micheal is a nasty striker, and if you watch that fight against Andre Petrosyan, he connected clean a few times. So, but then he just couldn't defend takedowns, was ridden, at the end of the day, this is the clearest path that Ramiz has ever had in a fight. Hopefully, he follows that path. Jakey boy, what do you think?
I think Scrappin just gave us $20 and said Gillmore by head kick. So I think that might be my prediction as well. Thank you very much, Scrappin.
Thank you, Scrappin, for the $20. Very, very, very appreciated.
But yeah, I agree with you too. I agree with everyone in the chat. I've been reading the chat. Ramiz, I don't trust the guy. I don't want to trust the guy. But you look at this matchup, they both got beat kind of the exact same way in their last fights. They just kind of got out-grappled. They got just beat up on the ground. And I can see why the odds are the way they are, because on paper, Ramiz should be the much better grappler in this matchup. Obviously, we've found out his defensive grappling isn't very good against Court McGee, like you mentioned.
Yeah,
but
off your back is just a different world.
Right.
Especially in MMA.
And Micheal Gillmore is not going to offensive grapple him. So, I think Ramiz is going to win this matchup and win this fight, because he does just have to grapple him, man. All you got to do is just grab. You saw what happened, how he lost his last fight. That's how you lost. Come out, prove that you're the grappler that everyone says you are. Just take him down and submit him. That's really all you have to do. If you're Micheal Gillmore, turn this into a brawl. If you start hitting Ramiz, he will hit you back, but you got to start hitting him early so he can abandon his grappling game plan, which he seems to do time and time and time again. So, my pick is Ramiz. He should easily win this fight. I don't think Micheal Gillmore is kind of the UFC level, but I don't trust him either. I definitely would not play that -3, 4. I think those odds are still kind of crazy. It's probably -250 is probably where he should be, but still, I wouldn't play that.
Yeah, the odds are definitely. The odds are just based off the fact that Ramiz Brahimaj has an unbelievably clear path to victory. He's just proven to us that he won't take it. I don't think you're giving Micheal Gillmore enough credit. I think he's a very good striker. It's clean. Even in that fight with Andre Petrosyan, he was landing. When they were on their feet, he landed clean and he looked good. And that is how he spells Micheal, by the way. It's not a typo. The E is before the A, and it makes absolutely no sense. Here's the thing. If Ramiz grapples, I think he definitely submits Micheal Gillmore, no? So is he worth the $9,300?
Yeah, I just, if you're a multi-entry, yeah. He should win the fight. He's a 350 favorite, right? He should just dominate this fight. And I agree. I think that Gillmore is a very good striker. I don't trust Ramiz. I don't think I'm going to trust him enough for the $9,300.
It is so tricky because he could come out there and be the prospect he was supposed to be.
You did. I mean, I'm looking at this right now, and you did mention the pattern. It's loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. That's very. If you're reading stock charts, that is concrete, and you're going all in on a win on this.
That's about as insightful as we fade somebody because they fought on the Contender Series. Especially when we talk about Contender Series, the fight nights, I can understand to a pay-per-view, but Contender Series, the fight night, it's the same building, in the same cage. They've already fought in that situation. Anyway. DraftKings, it's such a tricky fight. I mean, I imagine most people would agree. Ramiz is the better fighter. Ramiz has a very clear path. Ramiz doesn't follow that path and tends to give fights away for no reason. So if you think he'll get back on track, it's short notice, which tells me he's really just trying to get that loss back. He might be worth the $9,300. I'm not going to do that, but he might be worth it. And I think it's a monkey knife fight more and more. I actually think they go at it. I don't think it's going to be a quick takedown and sub. I think they'll go at it a little bit. What do you think?
I agree with that because, I mean, he's proven it time and time again. He'll just sit there and just be the better striker, try to be the better striker.
All right, so we're both on Ramiz. We're both very weary about him and his ability to stick to a game plan. And we're both willing to give you $50. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. I'm going to need to put drops in my eyes. They're very dry.
Oh, you going to be okay?
I don't know. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Alejandro Perez versus Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez is 14-4 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a solid win over an undefeated Georgian. Alejandro Perez, 22-8 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off a nice win over Johnny Eduardo. And Alejandro Perez has solid boxing, solid grappling, and nice speed. He throws things with power. He's happy to get sucked into a firefight. And he does have a wrestling background, but he doesn't always use it. If you break down his UFC stats, he has 5 takedowns in 12 fights, which is not a lot. That sounds like a lot. 5 takedowns. 5 in 12, that's not a lot. And a pretty solid 70% takedown defense. So he's really using his wrestling techniques to keep it standing and slug it out. So he does like to bang. He wants to stay in his feet, which is exactly where I think this fight takes place because Jonathan Martinez also likes to strike. And Jonathan is another well-rounded guy. He's got nice technical striking, slick BJJ. He has a Muay Thai striking style with really nice kicks, and he uses those kicks to control range. On the ground, he's very slick and can absolutely snatch something up in a scramble or even set something up and catch you moving. He only has takedowns in 3 of his 8 UFC fights, but he won each one of those by stoppage. And that's because he has power. So I've mentioned this in other breakdowns before. You mix in the takedowns, all of a sudden your striking becomes more effective because people are now worried about more than one thing. If you're only shooting, they don't have to worry about your hands. If you're only striking, they don't have to worry about the grappling. When Jonathan Martinez mixes the takedowns in, his hands are really, really successful for him. And this should be a fun fight. We've got 2 grapplers who don't grapple. I do think this fight will be dictated by the grappling, though. So even though it's basically striker versus striker, even though they both have grappling backgrounds, I think that if Perez goes back to his wrestling, he should be able to take a decision because I think he'll take down Jonathan Martinez, can ride him out. I don't think Jonathan will submit him off his back. But he's proven that he doesn't really do that. He doesn't use the wrestling for offensive takedowns. He uses it for defense. I think Jonathan Martinez is the more well-rounded fighter. He lacks power where Perez does have actual power. But I think he's the more technical striker. He's the more technical grappler. And, you know, styles do make fights, but at a certain point, you just got to go with the better fighter. Jonathan Martinez, he's coming off in that last fight. He looked like the prospect he was supposed to be. He beat an undefeated Georgian. I think Jonathan Martinez gets it done here again and starts to live up to the hype that, you know, last year he really wasn't. What do you think while I put drops in my eyes?
I absolutely love Jonathan Martinez. That is my guy. And I think the UFC loves him as well. I think they love him as a prospect. And I think they tailor-made this fight to add to his highlight reel. I really do. I think he should absolutely dominate this fight. It's kind of a name in Perez. But I think that he can absolutely. I think he should be like the -300, -350 favorite. Perez, I do agree. If he tries to grapple, that hit really to me is his only path to victory. Because in his striking, he is a little flat-footed, and Jonathan Martinez is a very, very fast and dynamic and precise striker. So if you do not move your feet, if you do not have good head movement, you are going to get hit. And Perez, in one of his last fights, I don't know if he still does this. I think to like 2 fights ago, his head movement was just like shoulder, like boom, 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 just literally back, with no like. It was just a tick-tock. If he does that against Jonathan Martinez, it's going to be a head kick and lights out for Perez, and that's going to happen very, very early. The only thing I worry about Jonathan Martinez is he can get a little showboaty. And against David Grant, he kind of was hands low, trying to play it off cool to get those kind of highlight knockout and got knocked out himself. Maybe he does this fight and gets caught by Perez because Perez does have a little bit of power behind those hands. But I think this is Jonathan Martinez play all the way. What was his DraftKings? $8,800, something like that. He's definitely going to be in my lineup. I think he dominates his fight. -235. I might even try to play that with a money line bet. So I like Jonathan Martinez all the way in this fight. But Perez, if he uses grappling, he could sneak this one out.
Yeah, well, and he has the actual power. If he's got the one punch knockout power as well. So he could fake some shots, come over the top. Jonathan Martinez could do the same as well. So I think it's a fun fight. I'm actually surprised that Jonathan Martinez is as wide of a favorite. I think he wins. He's my pick. He's your pick. I think he's closer to a -150 than he is to a -235.
Should be -300.
Yeah, I think it's a bit much, but I do like him. DraftKings is
I
interesting.
forgot to mention too, Perez is kind of funny. He won his last fight and then called out Sean O'Malley. It's like, who are you? Sean O'Malley's probably like, who the hell is that guy?
Yeah, it's a little too soon. Especially both these guys had sort of rocky middles, and right when they're just about to hit their own rhythm, the UFC's like, put them together. So one of them falls right back down. Anyway, 2 fun guys. They're going to go at it. I do like, 88's so high on Jonathan Martinez. I think I like more less here. What do you think in the Monkey Knife Frey strike line?
I think this could be a very quick finish for Martinez. I think more or less is probably a little bit safer, but I might play less on it.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, it's
I don't know
certainly
if he's
possible.
going to be able to touch Jonathan. I just don't know if he's going to touch him.
You're that far on that side. That's crazy.
Yeah, listen, I am biased because I do love Jonathan Martinez. So
yeah, well, I think it's a much closer fight. I do think Jonathan Martinez wins, and I think he's just the better fighter. So I think he's going to win minutes. He'll win an exchange. I don't think he's going to steamroll. I think he'll just be a little bit ahead in all the exchanges and take the fight. And speaking ahead, you want to be ahead $50? Go to weonpicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know. I send you $50. Literally $50 from us to you as a thank you. You didn't like that transition, huh?
Could you repeat that? I didn't quite hear. Didn't quite catch it.
Next up at UFC Vegas 49, we have Jinh Frey versus Hannah Goldy. Jinh Frey 11-6 overall. She's 3-2 in her last 5. Hannah Goldy is only 6-2 in her entire career, and she's 3-2 in her last 5, and she's finally coming off of her first UFC win. Jinh Frey is older and well experienced, and that's really how she carries herself. She doesn't panic in fights. She stays nice and patient when things are tough. And for the most part, she likes to throw big, heavy bombs, and that sets up her wrestling or her cage control. She's a heavy grappler who uses her size, strength, and physicality well. In her win against Ashley Yoder, she actually avoided the grappling in that fight, and she was able to win with forward pressure and just being more physical in those exchanges. Hannah Goldy, she had a couple tricky matchups in her early UFC career, her first 2 fights, but she finally got her first win a few months ago. Physically, she's short, she's jacked, and she's strong as hell, but she doesn't always fight very physically. She doesn't really impose that physical style. What she likes to do is just come forward with speed and a ton of volume and just let it go. She's not really a grinder against the cage. She's not trying to rip you to the ground, but she is just trying to straight up out volume you. And you can see the Monkey Knife Fight strike line reflects that as well. She keeps a high energy forward pace. Again, she's jacked, but she doesn't really have the power to go with it. And she really just beats you by bouncing around and staying busy. It's an interesting matchup. And I think these odds are honestly pretty spot on with Hannah being right around a plus 150 underdog. Jin's composure, her bully style works really well for her. And especially against Yoder and less experienced fighters, like she's just able to be a bully. And that's how she fights. Even if she didn't drag Yoder to the ground, she essentially bullied her in there. What I do think is different in this fight is Jinh likes to come forward with the strikes, pressure against the cage, and then work from there. But Hannah is legit. She is crazy strong, and she doesn't use it offensively, but I think she is absolutely strong enough defensively to circle off the cage, push out, and not get stuck getting bullied. I think she's bigger, stronger. I don't see her getting bullied. I actually am leaning. You guys hate this pick. You've already commented a million times. I'm actually leaning Hannah Goldy here. She's definitely got the better. She's definitely
$100.
She's definitely got the better striking. You agree? You have to agree. You don't agree Hannah Goldy's got the better striking? Okay. Hannah Goldy definitely has the better striking. Her takedown defense is what's a little suspect, but Jinh Frey isn't shooting takedowns. She's dragging you to the ground using her strength and physicality. And Hannah Goldy is not going to be an easy person to bully around and be more physical than. So I am slight underdog Hannah Goldy here. Jacob wants to laugh and make stupid faces. Why don't you give us your input?
I would love to make a $100 bet. I'll even give you the odds on it.
Okay.
All right. Very easy.
Okay.
Very easy. So this is what I love, but this is like the most what are the odds on this fight? Minus 180, something like that?
Yeah, so I give you 50 and you give me 150.
Very, very disrespectful to Jinh. I think she should be a 300 favorite in this fight. Hannah Goldy, no disrespect to her, just is not very good really anywhere. She's got all these muscles. By the way, people say she's on steroids. I don't know if she's on steroids. I just know her husband popped and got suspended for 4 years for being on like anabolic steroids, like the whole spectrum. So use that information as you will. But she won her last fight, but she was on her way to just getting absolutely beat on, and then found a submission on a girl that's 4-4 with 4 submission losses. That's how she loses every single fight. So she took Hannah to the ground and she got submitted again. I mean, that's how she loses. So Hannah in that fight was on her way to getting destroyed again, was probably going to get cut from the UFC, where Jinh Frey is on the upswing. She actually beat my lock of the week last week, Gloria DePaula. You know how she beat her? Because she was smart enough to understand. She won the wrestling in the first round, said, let me try to strike a little bit. She lost the striking in the second round, said, all right, let me go back to wrestling. I think she does the same thing in this fight. If she is winning the striking, I think she stays with the striking. She doesn't abandon it. If she is losing the striking, you think Hannah's a better striker? Maybe she is. I think Jinh can easily get this fight to the ground. Hannah does not really have anything to offer in her defensive grappling. I watched a grappling match that she was in, and it looked like she was just absolutely clueless on defending takedowns. I think Jinh Frey gets this fight to the ground very easily with her veteran savvy, and I think she just absolutely dominates this fight. I don't know if she's going to finish her, but I think she should be a 300 favorite. I put 2 units already on her to win at minus 180. So I love Jinh Frey all the way in this matchup.
Listen, if Jinh Frey was shooting takedowns, like lowering her level, shooting an actual takedown.
She can body lock takedown and just trip Goldy. She doesn't have to muscle her. She just trips her. Hannah does not know what she's doing.
I guess we'll find out, Jacob.
Watch how easily she was taken down in the last fight. She was just.
I watched all of it.
I'm on the ground.
I watched all of it. I watched all the fights.
So you saw her get beat on until she got a miracle armbar sub or whatever, and you thought, man, I'm picking her.
I watched her pull off a beautiful submission win. Absolutely. I did bet the 100, Mbe.
Got submitted.
Mbe, I did bet him the 100. So Jacob's paying me. We're taking the odds. We'll see what happens. Listen, DraftKings, I'm not going to take Hannah in DraftKings because I don't think she's going to win by finish and defend, pushing off the cage, defending those type takedowns and just landing a bunch more strikes. I don't know how well she'll possibly score, although $7,500 is nice. Do you if you think Jinh Frey is getting them 500 takedowns, then I imagine you're going to go that direction, no?
Hell yeah, she's going to be in my lineup.
All right, I guess we'll see what happens. What about Monkey Knife Fight?
I think she takes her down and just holds her there and just wins. I think.
But keep in mind, those are Hannah Goldy's numbers. That 91 is. Chris just does the math on how many strikes she's landed in her previous fights, puts it all together, blah blah. Which means even in her 2 UFC losses and her last fight where she won by finish, she still puts up numbers like that.
More power to you.
Yeah, I think it may be a more. I think it may be a more. And I totally understand that it's very possible Jinh Frey comes out there and ragdolls her. Style to make fights, she's super strong. I don't necessarily think Jinh Frey is going to be able to bully Hannah. And it's not like she's got clean, nice wrestling, taking shots, getting behind the knee. That's just not how she grapples. She drags people to the ground. Hannah's jacked. We'll see what happens. What is so funny?
I don't know. It was like you were talking technically about Jinh Frey, and then you're like, Hannah's jacked. Like, okay.
But that's a huge factor here for me, is how strong she is to work off the cage.
Technique is everything.
That is literally why I'm picking with Hannah. She's that strong to work her way off the cage, where Jinh Frey only uses her strength. Her success is because of how strong she is. No other reason. She's dragging people to the ground, losing striking exchanges, and she can only drag you to the ground because she's crazy strong.
Was Hannah's last fight at 125? Because this one's at 115. So it'd be interesting to see how she comes in. I thought last fight got moved to 125, but I'm not sure.
Hannah is winning striking exchanges, and when she's losing, it's because people are shooting clean takedowns on her and stuff like that.
So I think she's at 125.
Anyway, I'm interested to see what happens, and maybe I'm way off. Obviously, that's possible. You can't win them all, but I do think Hannah Goldy's way more alive than a lot of people are giving her credit for. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Terrance McKinney fighting Firas Ziam. This is rebooked from UFC Vegas 43. That was back in November because of COVID protocol. It was Terrance McKinney's corner man had COVID, so not Terrance. But the fight was canceled and it is now finally rebooked. Terrance McKinney is 11-3 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, riding a 4-fight knockout streak. Firas Ziam, 12-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He's coming off 2 solid decision wins. And all of his wins are decision wins. Terrance McKinney was a giant underdog in his last fight. Not this rebooking. In his last fight. He took it on short notice. Nobody liked him to win. I didn't agree with that. I loved this guy to win. I had him winning. He did win. 7-second knockout. And Terrance McKinney showed the world, hey, I've got power in my hands. And I'm a nasty wrestler on top of that. He's long. He's powerful. He does like to fight at range. And, he's got a ton of knockouts. But he's a wrestler. He's absolutely a wrestler. He was a JUCO All-American wrestler. Michael Chiesa was his high school wrestling coach. He's a far better, more accomplished wrestler than Michael Chiesa is. But he is a wrestler who has found not only power in his hands, right? We've seen people like Phil Hawes, a wrestler who found power, but never really found the range, never really found the setups, just power. Where Terrance McKinney has striking range as well, and he has nice striking setups on top of the wrestling. Firas Ziam is a long, rangy striker who also works well in the clinch. He manages range really well with solid leg kicks, and if he works to a clinch, he has solid elbows inside of there. He's the more technical fighter in most of his matchups, and he avoids risks really well. He picks his shots well, and he only engages when he sees opportunities, so he has no problem hanging around the outside doing almost nothing, and then as soon as he sees an opportunity, that's when he'll come in, mix it up, and then quickly go back out to the outside and play that range. He takes his time, and he's always looking to point his way to a victory. You cannot get this guy to engage in a firefight. I've talked about this many times before with people who have been rebooked. So Vegas opens up the lines, fighter A versus fighter B. They set the lines. The money comes in, so the lines end up moving with the money, and then the fight's canceled. So Vegas knows what the market wanted to do there. And then when they redo the fight and they put it back up on the board months later, it opens at a much different line. The first time this fight was booked, Terrance McKinney was a medium-sized favorite. Now he's a slight underdog. These odds have basically completely reversed since the first time it was booked. I find that interesting. I would have thought it went the other way. I actually love Terrance to win this fight. I don't necessarily see how Firas wins. He would have to defend all the takedowns, play the outside game perfectly. But Terrance McKinney has power. He is fast, and he has nasty wrestling. I've got a 1-unit money line bet on Terrance McKinney. I love that I'm getting plus money on it. I just absolutely see him getting it done. I have a stat here. He's got 68% takedown defense, but he's been taken down in every single one of his UFC fights, including 5 times against Jamie Malarkey. And Jamie Malarkey is nowhere near the wrestler that Terrance McKinney is. So I think Terrance McKinney tries to mix it up on his feet, doesn't have much success, goes to the wrestling, gets the takedowns, dominates from there. Jakey boy, what do you think?
I disagree. I do love Terrance McKinney. I think he's got one of the best stories you've ever heard. He's such a great kid. He is the guy that got high on acid and tried to fight a bunch of cops and got tasered 10 times. You can watch the body cam video. It is the craziest thing you've ever seen. He's very open and honest about it. He said, yeah, I had a bad night, and I've learned from my mistakes. And now here he is just knocking at everyone. He's kind of like the Jamal Hill of the lightweight division, because Jamal Hill when he knocks people out, it's it doesn't really look like he has power, but when he hits people, all of a sudden they are going flying across the cage, as you saw with Johnny Walker. And Terrance McKinney's got the same way against who was his last fight? Not I keep thinking Felder, but Matt Favola. It was just a 1-2, just boom, boom, down the pipe. When he hits people, they go to sleep. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't want to pick him, because of his fight experience. I added up. He's got 2 minutes and 48 total cage time in his last 6 fights combined. And yes, I know he's knocking people out, and that's great when you don't really have to fight that long. But I think in this fight, it's going to go long. And you kind of saw that in that Sean Woodson fight. There was cardio issues a little bit. I think it was only a second-round finish for Sean Woodson. You kind of see him getting tired. In this fight, you did mention Ziam against Jamie Malarkey. He was taken down, but he won a lot of scrambles against Malarkey. And he also used his offensive grappling in that fight. I think Ziam plays it safe in the first round. And I see him turning up the pressure and using his offensive grappling to wear down Terrance McKinney. I mentioned the 2 minutes and 48 seconds of fight time Terrance McKinney has in his last fights. Ziam has 20 minutes and 29 seconds in his last 6 fights of cage time. So there's a big difference in experience there. I think he uses that. I think he avoids the first round knockout and is able to use his offensive grappling and kind of those pitter-patter striking to win this fight. 2 rounds to nothing. So I'm taking Ziam in this matchup, but I agree. I think it's close. I like Terrance McKinney. If it's a first round knockout, I wouldn't be surprised.
What is 2 rounds? How does he get to 2 rounds to nothing? What happens at that 3rd round of the fight?
No, 2 rounds to 1. Sorry, he wins the second and third round.
Oof. Yeah, I just don't see it. The Jamie Malarkey fight's a perfect example. The dude took him down 5 times. That guy is not a wrestler. Ziam won the fight, so I get it. He was taken down 5 times. Terrance McKinney's a JUCO All-American, and if you guys know anything about
but
wrestling,
if you don't use your wrestling,
but he does use it. If you guys don't know anything about wrestling or some of those
people fall in love with striking.
Other JUCO sports, essentially being a JUCO All-American is almost equivalent to being a D1 All-American. It's traditionally guys that didn't have the grades necessarily to go to D1, so they went to junior college, dominated from there, and then moved on. John Jones, JUCO. Similar path, similar story.
When those grapplers start knocking people out, they don't like to grapple.
DraftKings, I absolutely love $7,800. Terrance McKinney will be in my lineup. $7,800 is fantastic. And I'm surprised DraftKings took that feels wide for DraftKings, considering it's, the different books have different lines, but the $7,800 to $8,400 seems much wider than plus 105 to minus 125. Do you like Firas for your DraftKings lineup?
I will say, after I broke down this fight, I really thought McKinney was going to be the favorite. I'm actually very surprised that he's not the favorite in this matchup. So that said, I think Ziam's going to win, but I think he's overvalued both in price at DraftKings and in betting. So that's how I feel about
Terrance was the favorite in November, and the market, right. I guess the vast majority of people and their money disagreed. And we'll see. Maybe it'll flip again come fight night. Monkey knife fight, I don't know what to do with that. Obviously, if Firas Ziam wins, it's probably less, frankly, because Terrance McKinney's got that knockout power, and if Firas wins, he probably just plays the range game really well, one random strike here and there at a time. So I think I like less a monkey knife fight. What do you think?
I don't know if we've agreed with one of these yet. I think it's a more and more.
Sure. Cool. Well, if you want to give monkey knife fight a try, go to WeWantPicks.com/MKF. Sign up, make a deposit. They'll instantly match your deposit. Play with the free money, mess with some of these strike lines, and see what happens for you. You can get a decent payout. Next up, At UFC Vegas 49, we have Josiane Nunes versus Ramona Pascual. Ramona Pascual is taking this on short notice, and this fight is now at 145 pounds, where Josiane Nunes was originally supposed to fight at 135 pounds. Ramona Pascual is 6-2 overall. She's 4-1 in her last 5, and again, she's making a short notice UFC debut. Josiane Nunes is 8-1 overall, 5-0 in her last 5 with 5 stoppages in a row. She's a killer. Josiane Nunes is a striker with crazy power. She throws very, very hard. She's not a very good grappler, but her striking is solid and it is busy. She likes to come forward with leg kicks and then just absolutely bomb away with overhand lefts. She is compact, but she does not have issues with range, even when she's the much shorter fighter in most of her matchups. Ramona Pascual has fought at 135 pounds. She's fought all the way up to 150 pounds. She's definitely the bigger fighter here. She may use that size to her advantage. Style-wise, she's a Muay Thai fighter with a traditional Muay Thai guard, the nice high Muay Thai guard, and those traditional techniques. Early in her career, she struggled with takedowns and grappling, but she seems to have plugged those holes, and she struggled with some knee injuries, then literally moved to Thailand. Like, she's taking her career unbelievably seriously. She is the older fighter in this matchup. You would assume she's younger because of her career and her experience, but she's actually the older fighter, and she started later in life. It's a really interesting matchup because I think Ramona Pascual, I honestly think she has a future. I think she can do something. I love the Muay Thai striking style that she's got going on, and I love that she's taken herself out of her comfort zone, moved to Thailand, competed in Muay Thai fights to just further her career. She's big, strong, powerful. She's technically sound. And again, she takes her career incredibly seriously, and she's done all the right things. Nunes is also the real deal. She's been dominating in striking. Short notice is what worries me here, because I think Ramona may actually be the better fighter. She's at least the more technical fighter. Josiane Nunes just has insane power, bombs away. Josiane Nunes is the pick, but a lot of that has to do with this crazy short notice. I would be interested to see what happens in Ramona's next fight when she's got a full camp, if she really settles into the rhythm and use that striking. Jacob, why don't you go ahead and just pick the massive favorite and pretend you have some valuable insight for us?
No, I will tell you right now that this is like leading a lamb to slaughter. I honestly feel bad for Ramona. This is another fight like the Jinh Frey fight where these odds, what are the odds? I think it's minus 200. I put 2.2 units at minus 220.
Those moved, by the way. Nunes was these odds moved quite a bit.
She's a minus 220 when I placed my 2.2 unit bet to get back a unit on her. I think that Josie, I'm gonna call her Josie. This is my girl. I love Josie. I think we were both very high on her last fight. She was fighting like a kickboxing like world champion or something, and just got her face wore down.
Super long, yeah.
Right. And I know I was high on her. I think that you were as well, and she just knocked her out. Josie is the Derek Lewis of the bantamweight women's division because she has like real knockout power. Some girls have power that can sting you and then they TKO you. Josie will knock you the fuck out and not even think twice. I absolutely love her in this matchup. She is what's her? Do you have the right record there? She's 8-1, right? And her only loss is to Talia Santos, who's 19-1 and hasn't lost in forever. It's crazy. Her power is ridiculous. I love her. I think the extra weight actually kind of helps her in this matchup. And I just think this is a lamb to slaughter in this matchup. This is literally a week's notice for Ramona.
Yeah.
I think this is just bad matchup because she wants to strike too, and you do not want to strike. You don't want to strike with Derek Lewis. You don't want to strike with Josie. I'll tell you that. I think she knocks her out cold.
Yeah, listen, I don't. I'm picking Nunes as well, but like, go back, watch some of the Muay Thai fights. Ramona's good. Like, it's solid clinch work. She doesn't have a very good outside game, so if Josiane manages to stay on the outside and just bombs away, that could be a problem. But if Ramona can just come in, she's much, much bigger. Come in, use the sides, clinch up. She's got solid knees, solid like short kicks in the clinch. She's gonna do something, and I'm just curious to see what happens in her next fight. Because I agree, she loses this fight. I am curious to see what happens in her next fight because I think she could absolutely do something. With the right matchups.
I think Josie should be a minus 900 favorite.
What? No. I mean,
minus 900.
Well, what is her wins inside the
She
distance?
should be the biggest favorite in the history of combat sports.
What is wins inside the distance? I mean, that's the bet. I mean, either way, it'll be an interesting fight. It's really interesting because I'm just curious to see how good is Ramona actually, or maybe I'm just it's not enough sample size for me to really nail that. But $8,900 for Josiane Nunes. If you think she's going to straight up knock her out and be done with it, then spend the $8,900. Jesse just said in the live chat that Josiane Nunes to win inside a distance is plus 200. Seems like a solid bet there, right?
This says minus 110 on Bet Online. Fight to win inside the distance.
It's probably moved. Even minus 110 is not terrible, frankly.
First round knockout's only plus 300.
Yeah.
So
listen, I don't think there's enough. Not enough sample size for me to really plant my flag and just this is going to happen. Ramona's going to win, but she's not a bum. She's good. Go watch some of her Muay Thai fights. She's good. She puts it out there, and she's super articulate and has done all the right things in her career to try to make it as successful as possible. We have no monkey knife fight strike line. You're going to spend the $8,900, I'm guessing?
Oh, hell yeah.
It. Yeah.
Her and
if you
Jinh
think there's
Frey.
a stoppage. If you think there's a stoppage, then go for it. But I'm not touching this money with any bets because I think Ramona's super live. Super live. But again, it's short notice and there's just too many questions. But her next fight, I'll be all over that. If you want $50 free to bet with, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have 5 betting partners. Sign up with any one of those 5. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do. And I send you $50. I just send it to you as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Rong versus Ignacio Bahamondes. Rong is 18-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He's coming off a nice ground and pound win. Ignacio Bahamondes is 12-4 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a beautiful KO. Ignacio Bahamondes is huge for this division. He's a striker with a surprising amount of volume and just okay power, but he's so long that he can really make things happen from a distance and catch people off guard. He has very good footwork and solid head movement, which protects him from power shots, and he has solid takedown defense. He's listed at 100% takedown defense, and he has defended 17 takedowns in 3 fights, but 12 of those were in his last fight against Roosevelt Roberts. So he does have good takedown defense, but the numbers are a bit inflated. The issue for him, though, is his takedown offense. He was losing the striking exchanges against McDessie. He then tried to grapple, did the right thing. His brain was like, hey, this isn't working. Let's go to plan B. And then he went 0 for 4 in takedown. So he had no plan B. And I think a lot of people were pretty surprised that he was losing those striking exchanges against a much older Jonathan McDessie. Rong is a good striker. He picks his shots well. He's got solid power. When Zhu's marching forward and dictating the pace, he can be a killer. But when he's being backed up and he's reacting to things instead of making them happen, he can end up a step behind. He's got a negative striking differential, which is crazy because he averages almost 5 takedowns per fight with a 75% takedown accuracy. So what that means is, even though he spends the majority of every fight on top, not getting hit, he manages to be outstruck in the fight, which is honestly kind of crazy. Right now, the odds have... That was Rong. Okay, yeah, no problem. Right now...
I wasn't really listening, I heard the end. I was like, oh, that really is interesting.
Oh, what an interesting tidbit. Hold on.
Yeah, I wasn't listening to the other part.
The odds when I made this graphic on, what the hell day of the week? The Sunday, Bahamondes was a 3-1 favorite. A 3-1 favorite. This is tightened up a little bit, but I do get why he's a favorite. He's big. He's got great volume, solid takedown defense. Zhu is an okay striker. He's got some decent power, and he's got good enough wrestling to get most of his fights to the ground. I think if Rong pressures forward, sticks to a grappling game plan, he can win this fight. But my real concern is he's just so freaking hittable. Bahamondes has insane volume, and right now I got to go Bahamondes. He's just got such crazy volume. He's so long. He just comes forward and makes things happen. And Rong is so ridiculously hittable. I'll take a closer look once we get to the scales. Bahamondes is really big, struggles with weight cuts. If he's looking pretty miserable and slow and like he's struggling, well, all of a sudden, Zhu Rong's looking really good. So right now, this minute, assuming everybody's in fantastic shape, ready to go, I like Bahamondes because of his volume, and Zhu Rong is just so hittable. But come Friday, Bahamondes looking a little tired, a little stretched out there, a little worn out, little rough to the wear. Then I may flip and go Zhu Rong here to get this done. Jacob, stop rolling your eyes. I'm working off 2 hours sleep here. Stop rolling your eyes.
Well, that makes a lot of sense on why you're making these picks the way that you are. I don't know why you're talking about the scale. You're talking about Bahama Mama on the scale when Zhu Rong literally missed weight in his last fight. So you're talking about the wrong guy.
Yeah, but
at the scale.
It's different.
It's different.
It is different.
Listen, I think that this is the fight of the night. I honestly believe that it's the fight of the night. These are two kind of wild at times, dynamic strikers, and I think they really get after it. The bet that I made, here's a stat that really matters, because this is kind of we make bets, we want to push bets, go to our betting websites, we got them all, the links are down below. 20 times combined in these two, when these two fight, 20 times they did not make it out of the first round, okay? In both the records, 20 times they did not make it out of the first round, and only 4 times in their wins did they go to a decision. I put a 2-unit bet on under 2.5. The round line is 2.5. I got under 2.5 for plus 135. I put 2 units on it, and I feel great about that bet because I think this is a fight of the night. I think these guys are both very dynamic strikers. I think they get after it early and often, and they both have knockout power when they land. I'm going to side with Bahama Mama because I think he is the cleaner striker. I think he's just a little bit cleaner in this matchup. Zhu Rong missed weight in his last matchup. I agree, Bahama Mama is kind of a big guy. We'll see how he looks on Friday, but I think he's just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more precise in his striking, and we've seen the knockout power before. So I'm going Bahama Mama in this matchup. And I might play. What's this, DraftKings? Click it.
Big gap. Big gap.
Yeah, I don't know if I love it for 9,000, but I like him, and I like this under 2.5 bet.
Yeah, I do like your under 2.5 bet. I could also see it just being an absolute drag 'em out war, but both of these guys have proven that they can finish or be finished. So I think under 2.5 is pretty solid. I may hop on that with you. DraftKings
it's only
is
plus 130 now. It's only plus 130 now. It's moving. It's moving.
DraftKings is interesting, though, because that is a wide for DraftKings. I did mention these odds moved. Bahamondes was like closer to minus 300, and it is starting to tighten a bit. And I think that's because a lot of people are thinking that Zhu Rong can come forward, get the takedowns. Because if he gets the takedowns, he should be solid. Bahamondes' takedown defense has held up so far, but, eventually it will crack. And I think Zhu's probably one of the more determined grapplers that Ignacio Bahamondes will fight. What do you think? I get it. You went under 2.5, which makes sense. What do you think with the more or less monkey knife fight strike line?
This could still be a more. I mean, this could be like a late second round. Somebody gets tired and they're throwing bombs the entire fight. So, I mean, they could strike. These guys could land, 40 punches each in the first round if they get after it early. So, I think this is probably still a more play, honestly.
Yeah, it could be. I'm gonna wait. I'll do the show with Chris Riley and see what he's saying about the money coming in on the strike lines there. Because I'm gonna wait and see what the market's saying. Because I actually do like your under 2.5 bet. I think that makes some solid sense there. And then it is does defy logic.
I mean, that's ridiculous. 20 times these guys have not been out of the first round between the two of them. That's a lot.
Yeah. I just I can't. I agree with you there, but I can't agree it's under 2.5 rounds and then say this dude is going to land 90 punches in 2 rounds. Like, that's just going to be, that's a little tricky. But you want 50 free bucks? WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, and I'll send you 50 bucks as a thank you. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, however you want it. Next up at UFC Vegas 49, we have Gregory Rodrigues versus Armen Petrosyan. We have 2 Armans on this card. Gregory Rodrigues is 11-3 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, coming off 4 wins in a row and a beautiful knockout just a few months ago. Armen Petrosyan is 6-1 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, with every single fight being a stoppage win or loss. Gregory Rodrigues is a well-rounded guy with good, clean striking power and a BJJ black belt. Even though he has a BJJ black belt, he's more than capable on his feet as well. He has really good takedown defense, which he uses to keep fights on their feet so he can just slug it out. He's a big guy with power and strength, and the reality is that he can be a threat anywhere. He can knock you out. He can submit you on the ground, but he is slow. Like, he's literally physically slow. He could be lumbering at times, and he just...
Who is?
Gregory Rodrigues is not a very physically fast fighter.
Okay. You may continue, sorry.
All right, thank you so much for that. And that's something that his opponents can exploit because you can just beat him to the punch, circle out, and move. Armen Petrosyan is a fun striker. He's never really seen the judges' scorecards before. He's got a professional kickboxing background. And if you go watch those fights, those professional kickboxing fights, he essentially brawls it out. He does rely on his chin to keep him in those because he'll get hit. And he just lets people back him up until he decides to plant his feet and let his hands go. He will throw heavy. He doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he has really good submission defense, and he's got a solid get-up game. I'm looking forward to this fight because Gregory Rodrigues will absolutely be the better wrestler. He'll absolutely be the better grappler. So there's a clear path to victory for him. But we've seen his chin in the past, give him some trouble under pressure. And if you think Rodrigues can just take down Petrosyan and be done with it, right? Get a takedown, ride him out, be done with it. Go watch Petrosyan versus Dmitry Minakov. Petrosyan was taken down over and over, multiple times, controlled for basically 2 full rounds, and all he needed was one clean exchange to let his hands go and get it done. So Gregory is the pick, but at any moment, that dude can get cracked in the mouth, and that's the end of this fight. So Gregory's the pick because I got to make a pick, but the reality is Armen is stupid live here. And that Dmitry Minakov fight is literally a perfect example of why he's so live. He can just take a beating, bang, bang, and he's in the mix. So that's my pick. What do you think? Do you think it's as... I mean, do you agree with the breakdown at least?
I do 100% agree with the breakdown, and I told myself, and in my mind, I had no idea who to pick in this fight. So I literally told myself, whoever Angelo picks, I'm going to pick the opposite. And I'm kind of glad you went with Gregory because I almost like Armen in this matchup. You mentioned that Dmitry fight. He was taken down, but it was kind of those drag takedowns to a knee, and he couldn't really get him back to the ground. He kind of held him there and controlled him, but he was never really get him on his back and really control him in like a guard or a half guard position. And he really had to work for those takedowns. And if you're Armen in this fight, that's what you have to do. Every time that Gregory takes a shot, especially early, you have to make him work. You can't make it easy because if he gets you on your back, you're probably going to be in some big trouble. You have to make him work. Stay on your knees, get back to your feet. If he gets you back to your knees, that's fine, but just keep getting back, keep making him work. This is how I played this matchup because I do like both guys for their own reasons. I agree. Gregory, wrestling, grappling is going to dominate. Armen and the striking with the kickboxing will dominate. So this is how I played this. You can tell me if you agree or disagree. I put a half unit bet on a first round KO TKO for Armen at plus 425. I also put a half unit bet on a first or a second round submission for Gregory at plus 850 and plus 600 or 1600 respectively. Because I see this fight as if Armen is striking and Gregory does not get him down early, he's able to win the first round and TKO him in the first round. I think he's that good in his striking. If Gregory's able to get an early takedown, I think he can submit him early, maybe in the second round. If it goes past that, I just think Armen's going to win a striking decision. I think he's going to be able to defend the takedowns past the second round pretty easily and just going to be able to outpoint him to a victory. So that's kind of how I played that. I kind of played both sides, but if I'm making a pick, I'm picking against you. I'm going with Armen. I think his takedown defense is going to be good enough to defend him until Gregory gets tired, and then he uses his striking. I think he's able to KO Gregory. So I'm going Armen on this side with this matchup. But I agree with your breakdown 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has to be the breakdown. I don't know how you could watch both these guys and then disagree with the fact that Gregory's the better grappler, better wrestler, can hang on his feet, but Armen's by far the better striker, who's got, even if his takedown defense isn't the best, his ability to not be submitted or fully controlled is amazing. And Alex E in the live chat said he put money on the over 1.5 plus 100 That's a solid bet here because I don't think this is a quick knockout. I think Gregory's smart enough to try to grapple, and I think he'll grapple, and it may look exactly like that Dmitry Minekhov fight, or he'll get a finish, but much later. So I do like over 1.5 here. You agree?
I mean, he was striking versus Park. He was more than happy to get in there and throw some bombs against Park, and that's kind of why he won the fight.
But
He
Park
getting
was a
beat on.
grappler, though.
What's that?
But Park was more of a grappler.
Yeah, but when he wanted to get Park to the ground, he got him to the ground. It's just, this is going to be interesting. We'll see how it plays out. But did you ask me a question on Monkey Knife Fight? I can't remember.
I did not, but go ahead. What do you think of this Monkey Knife Fight strike line?
I think it's less. I think this is a quick finish either way. I think if Gregory gets him to the ground, he is very, very good grappler. I think he's able to submit him. And if he's not, I think Armen knocks him out. So I kind of disagree with that. Over the line is 1.5. Is that what you said?
Yeah, well, that's what they said in the chat. Yeah, that he bet over 1.5 at plus.
Yeah,
100.
I think I'd stay away from that. But if I had to play it, I'd probably play the under.
Yeah, I kind of like the over 1.5 because again, go watch that Dmitry Minekhov fight. Even if Gregory wants to wrestle, Armen's wrestling defense, like he gets taken down, but he's not fully on his back. Like you said, he's like against the cage, hands on the ground, trying to scoot his hips out and stuff like that. And he was taken down over and over and over. So either way, I'm looking forward to this. I do love these when these kickboxers move over to MMA. I love seeing it. And the problem is a lot of them move to MMA after a very long kickboxing career with a ton of damage. Then they come to MMA, the small gloves, and a lot of them get put out. So I'm hoping that Armen, I mean, he does rely on his chin quite a bit, but I'm hoping he'll still have that same chin that he has with the big kickboxing gloves, that he'll have it with the MMA gloves, and he'll let his hands fly and start putting people out because him and a few of those other, stellar kickboxers that move over, I absolutely love that dynamic. If you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, we just broke it down. Go to wewantpicks.com/MKF. It is daily fantasy. You just say you think they'll land more or less of the total strike line you see in front of you. And if you're right, you get paid. If you're wrong, it's okay. You move on. Because when you make a deposit, they instantly match it. wewantpicks.com/MKF. Make a deposit. Use the free deposit match money. And play some of these lines. If you lose it all, who cares? It was free money anyway. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Armen Tsarukyan versus Joel Alvarez. Armen Tsarukyan is 17-2 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off a beautiful stoppage over Christos Gallegos. Joel Alvarez is 19-2 overall. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off an impressive win over Thiago Moises. This is an interesting fight. People are so freaking split on this fight. It's out of control. And the line moved quite a bit. Armen went from a 3-1 favorite now to basically a 2-1 favorite. And that was from Saturday to Monday. That wasn't even that long of a period of time. So the money is definitely coming in on Joel Alvarez. Armen Tsarukyan is a massive favorite, or at least he was at one point. And I completely agreed with it. He's an incredible wrestler. He managed to piece together a really nice striking game as well. He uses solid footwork and setups for both his strikes and his takedowns. He's athletic. He'll mix in kicks really fluidly. And if you check out some of his fights, you'll see him throw a straight right, left high kick combo. And it's incredible the way he does that. Every fight he comes out, it is clear that he has added more tools to his bag. His only loss since 2016 was to Islam Makhachev, who was able to take him down 4 times. And that's the only person that's been able to take down Armen Tsarukyan. Joel Alvarez is ridiculously tall for the division. He's 6'3". He uses that length and reach really well. He has solid kicks and okay boxing, but very good grappling. His grappling is interesting because he hasn't initiated a single takedown in the UFC. Not one. He has not tried to take anybody down in the UFC. In fact, he hasn't defended a single takedown either. So every single person who has ever tried to take down Joel Alvarez did take down Joel Alvarez. But he's been able to submit 2 out of the 3 people who took him down. He stopped the third one as well. So he stopped all 3 of the people in the UFC that took him down. So just because you can take him down doesn't mean you should take him down. He's not just a grappler. Go watch that Thiago Moises fight. He just came forward and just smashed him on his feet. Used that incredible reach. He looked fantastic in the last fight. I get why people are liking Joel Alvarez here, but man, I think this is pretty straightforward. I think Armen gets as many takedowns as he wants. No problem whatsoever. I think he can avoid the submissions. You know, you don't become that good of a grappler at this level and get into those fights and not learn how to, you know, keep your elbows in and avoid some of those submissions. I think he obviously does need to worry about, you know, Joel Alvarez's ground game. He needs to make sure that his wrestling entries are clean, needs to make sure that he's controlled so he doesn't get caught up in a scramble or end up in a bad way. But I think, and people trash me when I said this, I honestly think if they fought 100 times, Armen Tsarukyan wins 99 of them. I just think when you can't defend or when you choose not to defend a single takedown and you fight a nasty wrestler, what is going to happen? Your only hope is to submit somebody off your back? I just think that's crazy.
Yeah,
so Armen Tsarukyan is a very clear pick. I parlayed him with Islam. Spoiler, picking Islam. I parlayed him with Islam, and I did it when the odds were worse than they are. Now you can get even better money on it, although Islam's line moved a ton. But I like Armen Tsarukyan here, and I will bet anybody in the live chat that disagrees. I tried to bet somebody else in the comments section, and then he backed out because he said, you know, he didn't like Joel Alvarez at plus 185, only liked him at like plus 300. So you guys call me a clown, make the stupid smiley face emojis because I think that the incredible wrestler beats the dude that's never defended a takedown. What a controversial pick. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Here's what's going to happen. Joel Alvarez is going to show up Friday. He's going to miss weight. He's going to show up to the fight on Saturday. He's going to look huge. He's going to be physical. I messed up last time. I was not a believer in Joel Alvarez in his last matchup against Thiago Moises. I said Thiago should just strike with him. I said, well, I wouldn't mess with the grappling. Just strike. Joel can't strike. His go-to is just fall guard or pull guard and just try to get a sub. And then all of a sudden he just knocks out Thiago Moises. He looked fantastic doing it as well. He was very clean striking. And in this matchup, I think that he could use his striking, but I think Armen, like you said, is going to shoot the takedowns. That's just what Joel wants to be. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation is that he's a guy that is comfortable just being on his back, working his submissions, trying to get a guillotine on the way in. And if you look at his resume, he just does it. He just finds a way to just do it time and time and time and time again. And against this guy, he's going to come in big. He's going to come in strong. I just don't know how I can pick against him at this point. I don't know. This is going to sound crazy. I don't know how he loses this matchup. I honestly have no idea how he even loses this matchup. It's going to go to the ground. That's where he's comfortable. He's going to find a submission. You get submission. I place this half unit on each. You get Joel Alvarez. Remember, he has 16 submission wins and 19 wins. 16 submission wins, and most of them are on his back. He's not an offensive grappler, as you mentioned. Plus 1,200, plus 1,600, plus 2,000 for round bets. For round 1, round 2, round 3 for Joel Alvarez. I put a half unit on each. He's going to get the finish. And with that, by God. Lock of the week is 6-1-2 in his last 9 weeks. Joel Alvarez is a guaranteed lock. He's a lock of the week, and I have never, ever been so confident in a lock of the week in my life. Joel Alvarez just finds a way to get it done. He might knock him out, he might submit him, but he's going to finish him, and I feel bad for Armen.
All right, Jacob, so let's bet $100 on it.
Let's do the odds. We had the other one with odds. I gave you odds in the other one. No, I gave you odds in the other one.
Okay, fine. 225 to plus 185. Sure. 225 to plus 185. Done.
Let's go.
And Lawrence Michael in the live chat just running his mouth doing his stupid ass emojis. He's saying, I'm betting him as well. If he wins, he gets $70. If I win, I get 50. I take that bet. Everybody is a witness. Make sure you join us this weekend to make sure that we watch Lawrence pay me. Sorry, I didn't have the stats up. But here's the stats. Let's just break down Joel Alvarez. I mean, he is an incredible, incredible guy. 0% takedown accuracy, 0% takedown defense. Okay, well, we broke that down pretty quickly. What do you think of DraftKings? $9,100. It's worth it. The dude's going to get as many takedowns as he wants. As many as he wants. 5 each.
Someone in the chat looked this up. What is the fastest guillotine victory in UFC history? Because this might be an Armen shoot across 5 seconds, and it takes like 2 or 3 seconds. This might be a 9-second guillotine win for Joel Alvarez. I'm not even lying either. I'm honestly not even lying.
You just can't build
He's
a
so
career.
slick with his jiu-jitsu, man.
Oh, come on. You cannot build a career on only trying to get taken down. Because first of all, I think
working pretty well.
I don't know if Armen could outstrike him because Joel Alvarez proved that his striking is really good, but Armen's a good striker as well. He's not like he's not terrible on his feet. He's a good striker. Joel has, proved that his striking is solid. So anyway, listen, is anybody agreeing with me, or everybody just wants to be cool and say that Joel Alvarez is the man? Because, come on.
He's lock of the week, so now everyone definitely is going to go. These
I
odds are
bet
going to
that's what
flip.
it
Joel Alvarez by Saturday afternoon could be a 500 favorite once this leaks. Once this video. Oh, I guess we're live right now. So let me check the odds.
Leaked.
I bet they're moving already.
It's leaked.
I bet they're moving already.
Anybody else that wants to come and bet against me, let me know. I'm picking and choosing. I'm not going to bet 1,000 strangers, and nobody's going to pay up when they lose because that's what weasels do. And if you bet me and you don't pay, you're banned. That's simple. Straight up blocked. Anyway, you guys are usually pretty good. I've taken some money off of you. I've paid some others. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our betting partners. Make a deposit. Let me know after you do. I'll send you $50. We forgot to say draft or a monkey knife fight. You think less because you have some stupid
7-second. I'm going to find a bookie that can give me odds on a 7-second guillotine, and I'm throwing $100 on it.
All right, go for it. Yeah, the 92 is so high. I think this is a less more because I think Armen does get a million takedowns. It stays busy, elbows on top, but there's still grappling exchanges. 92.
Listen, he's not going to get a million takedowns. Joel Alvarez is not going to get back to his feet. He's just going to play the guard game. He's going to get one takedown a round, and he's either going to get submitted or he's not. That's what's going to happen.
Or Armen doesn't like a scramble, lets him up, starts over.
No, he's going to like the scramble, and he's going to get armbarred because of it.
Well, we'll see what happens. First of all, I think we could all agree whether you think my pick is.
Don't let your kids watch this fight. You're going to see it. You're going to see an arm get snapped in half.
People trashing me for picking the massive favorite is so weird to me. Like the world agrees this guy's the favorite. That's why the odds are what they are. But the 100 people in the live chat, everybody's a.
I mean, we got the smart. I've said for years. I know you hate everyone, but I've said for years that our chat is the smartest in the community.
Everybody is a Joel Alvarez sympathizer, but I think we could all agree, regardless of what side you're on, this should be the co-main event. I mean, what the hell are we doing? This should be the co-main event.
I do agree with that. This would be a wild co-main event.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actual implications to this fight. Whoever wins this fight all of a sudden is in a conversation. Whoever wins Priscilla Cachoeira, not so much. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have Priscilla Cachoeira versus Ji-Yeon Kim. Priscilla Cachoeira, 10-4 overall, 2-3 in her last 5, coming off a submission loss just a few months ago. Ji-Yeon Kim, 9-4 overall, 2-3 in her last 5, coming off a performance of the night loss to Molly McCann. Priscilla Cachoeira has heavy pressure, and she throws heavy punches. She's coming off a first-round submission loss after a nice 2-fight knockout streak. She is definitely a striker, but she does have okay takedown defense at 65%. She has very real power for the division, but she can be KO or bust. If you look at the stats, you'll notice Priscilla's striking differential of about 4-7, which means for every 4 significant strikes that she lands, she is hit 7 times in return. If you look closer at her losses, she's absolutely dominated in those and on her feet with her opponents. If she's not knocking them out, she's just falling way behind. I know you guys are going to be like, well, a lot of that happened because she fought Valentina Shevchenko. That's not the only fight where her strikes were essentially doubled against her. Ji-Yeon Kim is also a striker, but instead of fighting in the pocket and looking for power shots, she likes to fight at range and pick people apart. I don't normally care about range. You guys have heard me go on and on a million times about people who just pull up Tapology and say, oh, this person has a 1-inch reach advantage, so clearly they're going to win. That's always nonsense. Range is a tricky thing because very few fighters use it well and use it effectively. Ji-Yeon Kim does use it pretty well. Kim does a good job staying on the outside and uses that range to pick people apart. The most success her opponents have is they take a shot or two to get it, meaning they receive a punch or two in the face to get inside of the range, and then they just grapple from there. She was taken down in every single one of her 4 UFC losses. And while she does have solid submission defense, she does not scramble well enough to work back up to her feet and get her hands going. Kim is a good size favorite here, almost a 2-1 favorite. And it makes sense, right? She's got nice volume, good cardio, solid distance control. And if Kachera doesn't knock her out, then honestly, I think Kim wins a pretty easy decision here. So I got to go with Kim. I think she plays that touch and go outside game. She obviously is going to try to avoid those big strikes. I think she does that successfully. I have her winning a unanimous decision, but obviously Priscilla Kachera will be live for a KO as she is in every single fight. So I'm with Kim here. What are your thoughts?
I like Kim a lot in this matchup. I like her as a fighter as well. Everybody's talking about she's slow. I don't agree that she's slow. I think she's got incredible footwork in her striking. She has incredible volume, as you mentioned. She threw 374 strikes in her last fight versus Molly McCann. She showed that she almost tried to use some offensive grappling in this matchup. She wasn't able to get Molly McCann to the ground, but if she uses those same kind of like body lock kind of trip takedowns against Priscilla, she's going to be able to get this fight to the ground. I think that's her easiest path to victory. You take the KO out of the situation, you get the fight to the ground. Priscilla's somebody that's kind of lost once she gets there. I was actually kind of hoping when they were looking for replacements for Josie that they would put Josie versus Priscilla, because I just want to see Josie knock her out. Because Priscilla, her last fight, she misses weight. She comes in, she gets it onto the ground. She's almost getting submitted. She starts eye poking Robertson. Sorry, I couldn't think of her name, but she starts eye poking Robertson. She just seems like a dirty fighter to me. She just kind of KO or bust, hands low, kind of cocky in there. I wish that Kim kind of had that knockout power to finish her. I don't think she does. I think she can win this with volume, but I think her easiest path is to try and get this fight to the ground and just work the kind of ground game there. But I agree. I think she can use her length, play the distance game, and just kind of outpoint her to a victory as well. So I would love nothing more to see Priscilla get knocked out. And that's all the offense in the world to Priscilla. So,
yeah, I think, I don't know how anybody would be like, oh, I think Priscilla Kachera can win a technical striking exchange. She's either going to knock out Kim or just lose all the exchanges and be on the wrong side of a decision. So I am with Kim. You are with Kim. $8,600 in DraftKings. Is that worth it?
I don't think so, because if it's a striking, I think, she maybe have the volume to put up the points against Priscilla, and she does have a good chin. I'm not worried too much about her getting knocked out as a lot of people are, because I think she has proven that her chin is pretty good. So I think that she plays more of a clinch game in this matchup to kind of neutralize the power of Priscilla. So I kind of stay away from the $8,600.
It's a lot. You start flirting with 9,000, you expect, because she's not going to get. The reality is, in DraftKings, most of the points, obviously you want to chase a stoppage. That's the most amount of points you're going to get. After that, it's the takedowns and the cage control. Straight up volume doesn't necessarily do it for you. And I don't know if Kim at $8,600 is going to have enough volume to make her worth that money.
Yeah, the only thing you kind of hope for with her is that she gets kind of one of those late volume TKOs, right? Where she just starts swarming her, and Priscilla just is kind of a standing TKO.
She's so tough.
Defend herself.
Yeah, she's so.
I'm just worried about her cardio a little bit, but
yeah, and everyone wants to call her a cheater and stuff, which is totally what's warranted. I get it. But
dirty.
She's so tough. She's so tough. So I would not count on her giving up or getting overwhelmed or anything like that.
I want Josie to run out after her fight and knock out Priscilla. Kind of like the WWE, just jump the cage, boom, just knock her out and just run away. That's what I want to happen.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be so fun to watch. Okay. Next up at UFC Vegas 49, we have Misha Cirkunov versus Wellington Turman. Misha Cirkunov, 15-7 overall. He's 2-3 in his last 5. He's coming off 2 losses in a row, though. Wellington Turman is 17-5 overall, 2-3 in his last 5 as well. Coming off a win over Sam Alvey and then a canceled fight last month against another killer grappler. Misha Cirkunov is a very good grappler. He's got big shots on his feet, solid kicks as well. He uses those big strikes to set up his takedowns, which is where he shines. His takedowns are pretty solid. They're well-timed. He's aggressive on the ground, and he's always looking for a finish. He throws up a bunch of submissions and can be relied on to stick to his strengths, which is good because he doesn't really have the striking to bang with a lot of these guys. So he's got power and he'll throw some stuff up there, but he doesn't necessarily have the striking to win a striking match, and you can count on him to grapple and initiate the grappling exchanges. Wellington Turman is a very solid grappler. His striking could use a little bit of work, but it's really, again, it's there to set up his grappling. He is slick on the ground. He's also always looking to make something happen. His striking's not very powerful, but he does have solid entries. He uses his footwork pretty well. His last fight was a scrap against Sam Alvey, and it's very easy for people to say, well, Sam Alvey should be an easy win. But the reality is, Sam is tough. Sam is tricky, and it was a good back-and-forth fight. Ultimately, Wellington won that fight because of his takedowns and his control. And this is an interesting grappler versus grappler matchup. Neither one of these guys are going to submit the other person off their back. I just do not see that happening. So then obviously the fight comes down to who's going to grapple first, who's going to end up on top, who's going to win those striking exchanges. And if you look at Misha's loss against Jotko a few months ago, he had 5 takedowns. They had the exact same amount of strikes. So if you're just looking at the stats, okay, wow, Misha took down Jotko 5 times. Oh, wow, they both had, it was like 42 strikes. How did Misha lose that fight? Well, he was 5 for 17. And the striking exchanges, he landed as many strikes, but he looked pretty uncomfortable. And a lot of those shots looked desperate. And Misha Cirkunov just did not look great in that fight, even though technically, yes, he had 5 takedowns. And I'm saying all that because I think this fight is a little bit more the same, right? I think he's going to be uncomfortable on his feet, have some issues with Wellington Turman, and then shoot a million takedowns and not get a lot of them. I can see Wellington taking a decision. I can see him having the better second and third round, maybe giving up the first, and then going from there. Wellington Turman is training with Glover Teixeira. You know, maybe it matters, maybe it doesn't, right? But Glover's a big, strong, powerful striker who also grapples. But I like Wellington Turman here. He is my pick. I think he's the cleaner striker of the two. I think grappling-wise, they're both nasty. He definitely doesn't have the power where Misha does. I think Wellington wins a decision, but if he doesn't, he was a pretty big prospect at one point. So if he doesn't, that's pretty much it for him. And Misha's kind of a proven entity. He's on a little bit of a skid, but he has proven over time that he can get some of these things done. So what do you think?
I'm pretty sure we all agree that Wellington lost that fight versus Sam Alvey. I think that was one of those decisions that Sam Alvey was not very happy with in those judges' decisions, and that would make him 0-3 in his last 3 fights. And if this is just a strictly grappling match, I think that Wellington definitely is a more talented grappler, right? I think even with the wrestling, he might even be a more well-rounded MMA wrestler and grappler in his own right. And he probably is a little bit of the better striker as well. So I think Wellington probably is the better pick in this matchup. But for some reason, I just lean Misha. I just don't trust Wellington. I think Misha's size, he's a former 205er that's coming down, has been down at middleweight, but he's a former 205er. I think that size and his tenacity, he just seems a little tougher to me than Wellington. And that's not saying Wellington is much tougher than me. Listen, I'm not a tough guy at all. I'm not trying to put anything against Wellington, but when you see 2 guys, one guy's got to be tougher than the other guy. And in this matchup, I think it's Misha. I think in those late rounds, I think that matters, and he's able to get the takedowns that he needs to win the fight. I think this is sloppy. I think it's messy. I think it's weird scrambles. This could be like a weird draw situation. I don't know why it's the co-main of this card. I think we talked about earlier that the fight should be the Alvarez fight should be the co-main. I don't know why this is even on the main card. You know, I guess no disrespect, but that is kind of disrespectful to both these guys. But it's going to be sloppy. My pick's going to be Misha just off pure of toughness. But if Wellington wins, I wouldn't be surprised. This is just a tough matchup. They're both so evenly matched.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's definitely close. It's basically a pick 'em odds-wise, which I totally understand. And, frankly, they're almost mirror images of each other, just 10 years apart, right? They're both really good grapplers with just okay stand-up. Misha has the bigger, heavier power, the heavier strikes. Wellington Turman's got the better footwork, cleaner strikes. So I guess we'll see what happens. Wrestling-wise, I agree. I think Wellington's the better wrestler. But Misha is jacked. Misha has been in this game for a while. Technically, Wellington has the better record, but I think there's definitely different levels to their competition over the last few years. Do you spend the $8,300 on Misha Cirkunov in DraftKings?
Hell no.
No. All right.
No, I said hell no.
Oh, okay. And what about Monkey Knife Fight? I think it's more and more. I think they just go at it. I think it's a decision. I think they just go at it, and they may only stand in this fight, honestly.
I mean, this looks like this is probably my most confident more play. Which now it's something crazy going to happen, but I agree this is a more for sure.
Yeah, I think they go at it. I think they go at it for sure. And Misha, you can really trust him to shoot a bunch of takedowns, but we'll see what happens. It is grappler versus grappler, and I don't think either one of them have fought a grappler at that level. Wellington was supposed to last month, but Rodolfo Vieira fell out of that. So now he has Misha Cirkunov, and I actually think Misha's the less accomplished grappler when you compare him to Rodolfo Vieira, but the tougher matchup because Rodolfo had zero cardio. Either way, we're split on the pick, but we both agree pretty much on the insight and the breakdown. More on Monkey Knife Fight. And if you want to check that out, go to weonpicks.com/MKF. It is daily fantasy prop games. You basically use the app. You go to the website, whatever you want to do. You say more or less on the strike line. If you're right, you can triple your money. weonpicks.com/MKF. Sign up, make a deposit. They will instantly match that deposit. Just use the instant deposit match if you want. And if you lose it all, who cares? It was fake money. And if you win, awesome. It just became real money. weonpicks.com/MKF. Next up, at UFC Vegas 49, we have the main event of the evening. We have Islam Makhachev taking on Bobby Green. Islam Makhachev, 21-1 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, and his lone career loss was a flash knockout in 2015. Bobby Green, 29-12, 3-2 in his last 5, and he's coming off that awesome win, a week ago? 2 weeks ago? Something like that. He's coming out of that awesome win over Nasrat Haqparast. Bobby Green stepping up on 10 days' notice to fight the best guy in the division. It's a short notice fight, so it is at a catch weight. This is 160 pounds instead of 155 pounds, and I don't think that is any factor whatsoever for either one of these guys. We just watched Bobby Green. He just dismantled Nasrat Haqparast at UFC 271. He was a step ahead the entire time. His boxing was incredibly clean. Bobby Green is a busy striker. He's got that showboat, hands at his waist style. He's got great volume, incredible defense, and solid wrestling as a backup plan. He seems to be hitting his prime right now at 35 years old. He's got solid back-to-back wins and the most amount of confidence he has ever had in his career. He has a solid 72% takedown defense, and he will need every single bit of that in this matchup. Islam Makhachev is most likely the best guy in the entire division. He's an insane wrestler. He's got very good hands. His grappling is aggressive, and he's always looking to advance, punish, or finish. He doesn't just coast with the wrestling and look for a decision. We've mentioned this in previous breakdowns. Javier Mendez, the American Kickboxing Academy coach, has gone on record and said that the only time he's ever seen Khabib lose rounds is against Islam Makhachev in training. And Islam Makhachev is absolutely the real deal. This is a very interesting fight because, and you guys are going to get mad at me for this, because yes, Islam is an absolute killer, but let's look at who he's been killing. His last win was short notice over Dan Hooker, who didn't seem to care at all that he lost that fight. Before that, it was Thiago Moises, who's just a pure grappler with okay hands for the most part. Before that was Drew Dober, who's just a straight-up striker. And if you just keep going through that list, he basically has destroyed every single person, but they're not ranked. None of them have been ranked in the top 10. Dan Hooker's the closest person to a top 10 ranking, and that was a short notice fight. And, he has had a hit or miss career at best. But then when you look at somebody like a Justin Gaethje, because we had that battle of who gets the next title shot, it's got to be Islam, right? Well, then you look at a Justin Gaethje and see who he's beaten and how he's beaten them. Top guys in the world. It is very different. So, and I'm not saying that to disparage Islam, but I am saying that for some context here. Like, I agree, Islam could be one of the best guys in the division, or he could honestly be the best lightweight that has ever existed, but he hasn't fought anybody at any level yet. He's destroying everybody they give him, and that is his job. But Bobby Green is by far his toughest fight. Bobby Green will be the toughest fight that he has ever had. And I think he absolutely dismantles Bobby Green. I think he blows through Bobby Green. Islam is absolutely my pick. I think he has the striking to Bobby Green's definitely the better striker, but Islam has enough striking to not get smoked, and then he's just going to wrestle and do whatever he wants to do with the wrestling. But again, this is his toughest test. Islam is not necessarily a proven entity just yet as far as beating guys in the top 5 are concerned. That's my little rant, even though I went ahead and picked him. And, sorry, I have a 2-unit parlay. I took Islam and Armen Tsarukyan, I smashed them together, and I got like minus 180 or something like that. What are your thoughts, Jakey?
Listen, let me preface this by saying I love Islam. I love him as a fighter. I love him as a person. That dude is absolutely hilarious, and I hope that he improves his English and really comes out of his shell as he makes this run through the UFC, because he is hilarious, and I want people to see that side of him more. Watch those vlogs with Khabib and DC. The guy throws one-liners out there that are just absolutely hilarious. So I love Islam. With that being said, I got to tread this guy. I got to be delicate with this. If Bobby Green had a full fight camp versus Islam, if he had a full camp, he would have been my lock of the week. I'm telling you right now, if he had a full camp for this fight, he would be my lock of the week. Short notice, I don't love it. But if there was ever anyone outside of the top guys in the division, obviously you got Gage, you got Oliveira, you got all those guys up there. If there was anyone ever outside of those top 5 guys to beat Islam, it's going to be Bobby Green. I mean, it's just going to be Bobby Green. He is just set up perfectly for this fight. Nobody is set up more perfect for this fight than Bobby Green outside of the top guys. Obviously, Oliveira, whatever. But the guy has the best defensive or the best grappling defense you could ever have, and that is pressure and volume. He will just get in your face, and correct me if I'm wrong, the hardest thing to do is take a shot when you're moving backwards, right? You're constantly moving backwards. Hard to time a shot.
He's not going to move backwards. He's just going to drop and shoot, and that's the end of it.
No, this gets me to my next point. So, and obviously Bobby Green, I think his pressure gets to him. The first strike that Islam is going to get hit with is going to be a jab that's going to hit him square in the nose. And Islam is going to think to himself, where the hell did that come from? You cannot train against guys that strike like Bobby Green. We saw a strike. He's one of the best boxers in the UFC. His hands are low. His strikes come from a weird angles. People can't see him. And Islam, it could get him in trouble because Islam is a very proud person. They believe in him and Khabib. They believe in their abilities from top to bottom. And you saw Khabib kind of get caught up in that striking game with Conor. Everyone said Conor can outstrike Khabib. Conor can outstrike Khabib. And he wanted to prove a point that he could outstrike Conor. And he kind of did. I mean, he got crap. He dropped Conor, but he was kind of outstriking him at moments. Everyone is saying Bobby Green, short nose. He could outbox Islam. Obviously, he's a big favorite. Everyone thinks Islam should win. My pick's going to be Islam. I'm not going to pick Bobby Green, but I'm just saying, if there was ever anyone that could beat Islam outside that top 5, it's going to be Bobby Green. I think that Islam might try to stand and prove a point that I can strike. I think he can get him to the ground, obviously. I think he's going to win the fight. He should win the fight. But if there was ever a guy, I'm going to keep saying it, and I did put a half unit. I could not put a half unit. I mean, that's why I got the gold change. I could not put a half unit at Bobby Green at plus, I think it's 550 now. I don't know what the opening odds were, but if this was a full camp, man, I swear to God, I would have put Bobby Green as my lock of the week. My pick is Islam. He should win the fight, but I'm rooting for Bobby Green all the way in this fight, and I think he's going to surprise some people, and he's going to beat up Islam's face.
I'm rooting for you were a little dramatic there. I'm rooting for a good fight because it's better for the division if Islam wins. Islam losing is not great for the division, right? We need somebody to really mix things up, go in there, fight some of those top guys. They've already all fought each other, so it'll be nice to get some fresh blood all the way up there. So I want Islam to win. I think he absolutely blows through Bobby Green. But I do think Bobby Green will make it a fun fight. I think he'll get taken down and not care. Get back up, throw hands. You know what I mean? But
yeah, he's one of those guys too that the second you try to take him down, he just will start elbowing you, punching you. He's gonna be a fun guy.
Well, what's really funny though is Islam is gonna blow through Bobby Green. I don't think that necessarily changes my narrative of who has Islam beaten. Bobby Green's not a ranked guy. He's not a ranked guy. Bobby Green has lost to Thiago Moises, who I just said was Thiago Moises is mostly it's interesting. I think Islam is absolutely the future of the division. I think he's amazing, but let's reel ourselves in a little bit and let's look at his actual body of work. And he's done everything he's supposed to do. They tell him to fight somebody, he fights him, he beats him. And I love that he's finally getting recognition and he's getting tougher opponents that are a level up. Because I am curious to see what happens. If he just blows through Bobby Green, then great. That's literally what he is supposed to do. He is a minus 800 favorite. He is supposed to burner Bobby Green. He's absolutely supposed to. And I think he does. I would be curious to watch him strike for a little bit and then, go ahead and grapple from there. But anyway, we're both picking Islam.
Well, and let me just say too, my pick, I would be more confident in Bobby Green as a person too if he just had a little bit of power, man. If he just had a little bit of power, I'd feel better. Because we saw Islam get flash knocked out before. Bobby Green, I think, is gonna be able to hit Islam in the striking whenever he wants. He just really doesn't have that power that's gonna be able to finish Islam. If he had that power, I would be like really all in on Bobby Green in this matchup because I think his hands are that good. I think his boxing is that good, but just doesn't have that knockout power really.
Yeah, I mean, it's I like the main event. I actually think I like this more than Islam versus Beneil. Because I think Islam, I think matchup-wise, I think Bobby Green's a more interesting matchup than Beneil. Because Beneil's a grappler with just like okay wrestling.
Yeah, and
Bobby Green's not even going to try to wrestle.
Yeah, and Dariush literally said, I'm not scared of Islam. I can do anything he can do. It's like, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
If this fight gets around, nobody's going to beat Islam on the ground, so...
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to it. It's a fun main event. I actually like this better than the previous booked main event with Beneil Dariush. But good for Bobby Green. He's stepping up on short notice. This is the most popular he's ever been, and he hopefully will continue to get more popular. Guy's great, good for him. But it will not be his night. The pick is Islam. I told you I did that parlay, and I think he's a solid parlay piece. Although he's minus 800 now, I got him. I think I parlayed him when he was minus 600, which is still absurd. But, grab him, Nunes, and Armen Tsarukyan, and all of a sudden, maybe you get some decent odds out of that. Anyway, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit with any of them or all of them, and I'll send you $50 each. You make a deposit with all 5, I send you $250. It's that easy. Keep the conversation going on our Discord. We have a free Discord. Nothing we do for you costs money. Everything we do is free. We make all of our money through affiliates. So click links, sign up for things, support the channel that way. But we don't charge you for anything. We have a free Discord. Take the conversations there. Lawrence Michaels, you can just, troll your Joel Alvarez fandom
I like
on
Lawrence.
the Discord.
I like Lawrence. Lawrence is my guy.
He's a full-on Joel Alvarez troll, and it is what it is. Maybe they're related. The Discord link is in the description below. Click on it, join, argue with each other there. And we'll go ahead and we'll see you later this week for our final picks, our final bets, and all the things. Thanks for the watch. We'll catch you then.